Hello everyone, welcome to another time-lapse sketching tutorial. Today we will be sketching the temple of the Jade Mountain, which is a tourist attraction in Hanoi. So this is a temple that is located in the middle of the lake. And for this tutorial we will be using mixed media. We will be drawing with pen and ink, painting with watercolor, and adding some finishing touches with the Posca markers. So if you want to sort of follow along, you can download the reference photo from the video description below. This time-lapse video is actually the condensed version of the full-length tutorial that I have made for my patrons. The full video is 43 minutes long. So if you are a patron of mine, you can check out the full-length videos. Alright, for this sketch, I started by drawing the base, basically the area where the ground meets the water. So once I draw that, I know I will be able to fit the height of the temple. And now I'm just drawing the temple very casually. This is a very quick sketch, so I start by drawing the roofs and then filling in the details, drawing the pillars, and then extend to the right side. So this pen that I'm using, this is the Pelikan M200 fountain pen that's filled with sketch ink, which is waterproof and dry. So for the trees, the plants, you notice the lines that I draw, they are very short, very wiggly. And I do not close the lines, so I want the lines to be very airy. And that's the building in the background. I also place some dots around the bottom of the buildings to give an idea that there are some trees there. So for trees, I usually draw the tree line, and sometimes to create additional textures, I use little dots. So those little dots are actually to sort of let people think that there are tiny leaves here and there. So for the background, the background, it's very detailed. You may notice that I have used the fountain pen by turning it upside down. So now I'm actually drawing very thin lines by having the fountain pen nib upside down. For elements in the foreground, I draw with the thicker lines, but for elements in the background, drawn with the thinner lines. And for the background elements, I do not add a lot of details. There are a lot of details, but here in this case I do not add a lot of details because elements in the background, they are quite far away. Sometimes it can be a bit challenging to actually see the details and to draw the details. So I just draw basically the details that I am able to see, or the biggest details that there are. So it will be things like big windows, big shapes. Those would be the things that I draw. So let's see what we have here at the bottom. So it looks like there is a restaurant here. Now I wasn't able to draw this location, this temple on location. So I had taken that's why I took a reference. That's why I took a photo so that I can work on this sketch at home. So when you're traveling, it's sometimes good to take a lot of photos, and you can, when you're traveling, there is always a lack of time. So if you want to really sketch more, you can sketch more with the help of some reference photos. Alright, so the sketch is very quickly drawn. It's just a very loose sketch, nothing too detailed. So for this sketch, I will be painting with a limited color palette of Schminker colors. We have Aeroline Hue, which is PY151, Geranium Red, PR242, and Prussian Blue, PB27. So these are the three colors. When you use a limited color palette, it's more easy because you don't have to think too much about mixing colors. If you want to mix green, there is only one way you can mix green, and that's with yellow and blue. So notice here notice the trees. I did not even draw the tree lines for the top right. So here I started by painting this flag painting this flag is a bit challenging in the sense that this flag is quite small and there are little sharp edges that come out of the flag. And there are, this flag is in front of the tree, so later when painting the trees behind the flag, it's going to be a bit difficult because I need to fill in the greens within those tiny red areas. So using the same colors, I color all the reds in the scene. Those would be the pillars, the roofs for the temple. I also added a little bit of Prussian blue at times to get the darker red, the shadow red. And now I'm using yellow to paint the greens. I use yellow to paint the greens because I want to layer over the yellows later on. And sometimes when you look at trees, especially on a bright sunny day, you can see some yellow, or some of the leaves, they are just yellow. So this is the challenging part that I said, painting the green behind the red flag. I will have to be very careful to go into basically the small tiny areas there. When it comes to painting watercolor, sometimes it can be mentally challenging. So in this case here, I painted the red flag first and then the green. Right now, as I am doing the voiceover, I'm thinking maybe I could have painted the green first and then paint the red later on. Or maybe paint the green first, and for the red flag, I can use an opaque red like cadmium red and just paint over the green rather than leaving white space within the green to paint the flag. So there are actually many ways you can do so. For some of the ways, the order is important. For some other ways, the order is not important. So if you paint it long enough, the order at which you lay down the paint, it should come naturally to you. But personally speaking, I'm not that experienced. So sometimes when I add a certain color, minutes after I add that color, I realize, hey, maybe I should have added the other color instead of the color that I just added. So if you take a look at this watercolor paper, the colors at the bottom, they appear to be a bit washed out. That's because the sizing of this paper, it has deteriorated. That's why there's this very patchy look on the water. It's not because of my technique, it's because the sizing of the watercolor paper, it has deteriorated. So for the building on the left side, for that restaurant, I painted with one layer of gray and then added the shadows by mixing the three primary colors together, basically to get a very dark value color, something that's close to black. And for the trees, I can mix the three primary colors together, or sometimes I can just add blue, in this case Prussian blue, over the initial wash of green just to make it darker. So this is the blue Posca marker that I used to draw over the red flag, and other additional markers later on. It's so much easier to use Posca markers to draw over watercolor, especially to draw tiny little details like this, to draw lines like this. If I were to leave the white, it's going to be very difficult to leave certain areas white, especially tiny areas white. Or I could have used masking fluid, but I don't use masking fluid because I find it to be a bit troublesome to apply, and then later on at the end of the sketch you have to peel off the masking fluid. That's why I prefer to use Posca markers instead. It's just more convenient. Alright, so this is the completed sketch. So for the trees, I did not draw the individual trees because all the trees are grouped together, so I can actually just paint the trees as one big shape. So you can see the trees in the foreground, they are lighter, and trees in the background darker. I have this light versus dark thing to differentiate between the foreground and the background. And let's move to the right side. So for the right side, we have the trees that were painted over with Prussian blue to get the really dark colors. And I really like how the flag turned out. The Posca markers, they work really well. And you can see those tiny people standing there in front of the temple. Those were drawn with Posca markers as well. So it's very convenient to just use the Posca markers to draw those people. I can't imagine what it would be like to paint those people with watercolor. It would be, it's just going to be very challenging, very difficult. And notice for this sketch, I tried to use soft edges, so you can see the roof of the temple fading into the trees, and the bottom of the roofs there are some red pillars. Those red pillars would fade into the dark shadows just below the roof. So to do this, you have to make sure that your paper is wet and then have the colors blend together. Otherwise, you're going to get hard edges. Alright, to watch more tutorials like this, you can check out my YouTube playlist. The link is in the video description below. I have created a lot of free sketching tutorials over the last few years. And if you want to support me directly, you can consider supporting me on Patreon. Patreon is a monthly subscription service where you can pledge a certain dollar amount to support the artists that you like. And it is with your support that I am able to create such videos like this and basically make all sorts of content on my channel. Alright, thanks for watching. See you guys in the next video. Bye!